Welcome to the Lexi and Lucie show. Today we're going to be talking all about boobs. No, I'm kidding. Breastfeeding.
Breastfeeding. A little bit about boobs.
Yeah, a whole lot about that. So our format today is we're just going to sort of take our turns telling a little bit about our own breastfeeding journeys, the first few days when our milk came in, things like this, and some concerns that we came across. And then we're going to, about midway, ask each other a couple of breastfeeding questions and see where that takes us.
I have a would you rather for you.
Okay. Do you want to start out with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready? Would you rather breastfeed for the rest of your life or have to change your kid's diaper for the rest of your life?
Oh, I'm definitely breastfeeding. Because, like, the kid's gonna grow, right? So, like, I don't know about, like, changing, like, adult diapers. Like, kudos to all the nurses who do that, you know?
How awkward would that be when they're, like, a teenager? Like, okay, come on, Theo, I have to change your diaper now.
That's actually a really good question. I actually, like, love breastfeeding, but we can get into that.
Yeah, do you want to start off with your breastfeeding journey?
Okay, sure. So, of my two kids, so I actually had 3 pregnancies, and the middle one unfortunately ended in a stillbirth, but that doesn't mean my milk didn't come in. So I have sort of 3 different experiences with breast milk, and the first one with Theodora, I would say, was very, very positive.
Were you excited to breastfeed?
I was very determined to make it work.
Yeah.
I was, like, anxious, excited. And I remember at the time my husband was like, you have no reason not to be able to produce milk. You're going to be fine. So I think this is something that a lot of women worry about, is whether or not they're going to be able to produce enough milk for their babies. And so when he was born, I remember they were like, okay, like, try to get him to latch. And this strange nurse who I hadn't seen before came into the room, and she just, like, grabbed my breast and, like, shoved it into the baby's mouth. And it was, like, really bestial, and, like,
they're so ruthless at hospitals.
They were so ruthless, and, like, I remember the time I was just, like, sweating because I was kind of nervous, and it wasn't, obviously it doesn't come in, like, instantly.
But you kind of hope, a little part of you hopes that it just works out right away.
It just works out right away, and it was, you know, and it was fine, and that was actually, I think, helpful. And I remember going through the whole breastfeeding class and learning so much. Like, this class was really informative. You know, when the baby is first born, they have their bellies, their stomachs are basically the size of a cherry. Then it grows into a walnut. Then it grows into, like, I think there's, like, some other fruit, then an apple. And so you kind of, and then it talks about how your milk, they talked about how your milk changes and the production changes. And so basically, like, what I think is really awesome is that no matter what stage your baby is in, your milk is suitable for your baby. And so this is why they say,
very comforting.
Which is really comforting. And, you know, I thought the whole colostrum thing was really weird. So my milk didn't come in with my first until about 4 days later. And I remember when it came in, I was kind of terrified because my breast became huge rocks, and they were so hard and they were so full, and it's called engorgement is basically what happened. And I remember going to my son's pediatrician, and it's great because the pediatricians that I've dealt with, they all deal with breastfeeding issues as well, which I think is kind of a must when you're looking for a pediatrician, somebody who can sort of guide a woman in the early postpartum days. And
for sure, because you're constantly needing reassurance and advice.
100%. And so
especially for first time mom.
Yeah, and, like, I think also too, like, I was really scared because, like, a hard breast just seems like an unhealthy breast to me. Like, it was it
seems unnatural at first, for
absolutely.
Sure.
So her advice was go in the shower, get it nice and steamy, and, like, lean over and make a fist with your hand and just kind of literally, like, knead the breast. And I just remember at the time that I had to do this, I was crying in the shower because it was so painful. And like, I had my sister over for moral support, and she, like, popped her head in because she could, like, hear me wincing, and she was like, temporary pain, future gain. And I was like, okay, just pull out my, like, inner athlete, and, like,
this is why sisters are amazing and why I wish I had a sister.
Yeah, we're sisters in law, so, like, so that was kind of the hardest part. But then after that initial engorgement, all went really well. And then with Max, it was the opposite. Like, I felt like the latch was wrong, and they said he had a tongue tie. It was really minor. They said, you know, we could do the procedure, but if there's a lot of bleeding, we'll have to cauterize.
He had a tongue tie.
Yeah, apparently, like, he did, and he's grown out of it now. So
super minor then.
Super, super minor.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, it's up to you. It's up to the parents, basically, whether or not you want to go through the clipping surgery where they actually cut underneath the tongue. And they're like,
I think they use a laser. At least some places I know they do.
So they might have to cauterize it after. It's like they basically burn the skin to keep it, to seal it.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. And he was like, because we might get into a vein, and he might have to go to a sick kids hospital. And I was like, okay, no. And then they were like, well, he might be so scarred that he might not want to breastfeed because of the negative association with the mouth. So initially I was, and the reason why we even found this was because I developed mastitis. So anyway, long and short of it, mastitis was bad, but it wasn't as bad as the cracked nipples. And that took a few weeks to heal. It was really nasty. And I just remember, being tempted to go straight away to formula, but I loved it so much with my first that I wanted to have that bonding process.
So
and now, we're almost 6 months out and we're still breastfeeding. We're on purees now, but I just love.
And your boobs still look amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's because they're actually full most of the time. Thank you.
Which is amazing. Once you stop, your boobs just flatten.
They get really deflated, and I find that the skin gets very loose and stretchy.
Yeah.
And also I have stretch marks. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
On my breasts, I'm in my 20s, and I have very old lady breasts.
No, you don't.
But I'm they have surgery for this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I told Nathan.
When I turned 40.
Yeah. I know. 40 or when I'm done kids, whichever one happens first.
That's amazing. I love that. But I'm also terrified to go under the knife. That could be another topic.
Plastic surgery for moms.
So let's hear about you and baby Sloan and your experience.
So I was very, very excited to breastfeed just because I had heard amazing things from you. You'd always said it was a really good bonding session.
I was that person on the lily pad being my child, let me feed you.
Yeah. So I was really excited for that, and it was almost emotionally overwhelming to think about the fact that I was going to be nourishing a child from my body, which is incredible, and that, women's bodies are, mind-blowing that we can do that. So I was very, very excited.
And it's so awesome, too, because, the antibodies found in a mother's breast milk cannot be manufactured. So it's what I read is that the initial breast milk, the colostrum, is basically the child's first vaccine.
That's crazy.
Which is, really cool. The gold.
I remember just a couple days before I gave birth to Sloan, she was a few days late. She was due on February 20th, and she came on she was due the 17th. She came on the 20th.
That's okay. It's only I just remember. Sorry.
Anyways, I was in the shower, and I was kind of massaging just to see if anything would come out.
To stimulate.
Because I'd heard that stimulation was good. And then a little bit of colostrum came out.
So exciting.
And I was scared but also excited. And I was yay!
My breast can do this.
And I'm because everyone is kind of afraid that maybe they can't, or for whatever reason.
I think part of it is because you grow up wanting to develop breasts, then you go through puberty, you may or may not get them during that time. I was actually one of those people that never got breasts until I had kids. They were very small, and so you live with these breasts, and then all of a sudden you're wait, now they have to do their function. They've never done that before. How does that work? Without thinking about it.
So it was really exciting, and then the same thing happened with me at the hospital. They kind of just shoved her on the boob. Probably, in my mind, it's within 3 minutes of her being born or something.
That was
that. They're okay, let's try breastfeeding. I'm whoa, what? Okay.
But also, you pulled her out. You had a really amazing.
They did.
Birth story.
Well, her head was coming out, and I remember they were okay, grab the shoulder. I was what are you talking about? What?
She's not out yet.
Yeah, I was no, what? And then they're yeah, there's a baby. Grab her and pull her out. And then I did, and then put her right on my chest. And
that's amazing.
It was insane. Yeah. And then so we tried breastfeeding, and I mean, I didn't think that anything was coming out, but she was getting a little bit of colostrum, which is all she needed, really. And then I think my milk came in a few days after, and it was a pretty, my breastfeeding journey has been pretty good. Like, I didn't have too many issues. I did have a blocked duct once or twice.
Best thing to get rid of a blocked duct?
Massager.
Massage, like vibrating massage
Yeah.
is really the
Yeah.
best thing. And like literally just do it for 10 minutes, but on top of a cloth, like on top of your shirt, so you don't get a rash.
And white cabbage is really good as well. You don't want to use it too much because it's very effective at drying up milk. But if you have a blocked duct, it can help a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah, a lactation consultant told me that.
I saw a lactation consultant a couple of times with my second one and with Max, and that was, well worth the dime, I want to say. Like, even just for support where it's sort of like, okay, no, like, he's doing everything right, but if you're feeling pain, try it in a different way.
Yeah.
Try to adjust his jaw, like pulling the chin down to open up the jaw of the child and things like this, where it's like, wow, that's so simple, and all of a sudden my whole life is brighter.
I know, it's crazy. I have so much good advice.
Well, and it's so hard too, because when you have the blocked duct, when you have the mastitis, when you have these moments where you're just like so fatigued, but your baby needs to eat, and you're not doing the formula route, you're not doing alternative forms of nutrition, you're kind of like, okay, the baby needs to eat to survive, and I am the only one who can give him or her that, and it can be really stressful on the mother.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure for sure. And I find that sometimes just like talking to the kid, even though they're like a day old, and just being like, we're going to do this, like giving the child a pep talk is like a pep talk for the mother as well. But what do you think of this wives' tale about, don't cry or don't get upset or else it'll make your milk go sour?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
You think it's crazy?
I
don't know. I'm confused about it. I'm conflicted.
I think as a new mom, you're going to cry. You're going to be upset at one point or another. And yeah. I can just edit that out.
Yeah. And we're back.
Okay. And
about how we were talking about how whether or not your milk gets sour based on the mother's mood.
Oh yeah, maybe. I think that your child can instinctively sense your moods, but I don't know if it passes on to the milk.
I think it's like if you're,
Not sure.
I think like very commonsensically, if you are, so basically even things like the foods that you eat, does it affect your milk? And something that I thought was really interesting is that milk, everything that's in your blood, if it affects your bloodstream, then it affects your milk. But if it's affecting your bowels or your digestive tract, it shouldn't really affect your milk. So even something like spicy food, everywhere online it says like, don't eat spicy food, like don't eat refined wheats or sugars and things like this.
I was so paranoid about coffee.
Coffee's a big one.
I was scared to, I'm a huge coffee drinker, and I was scared to even have one cup.
Wow.
And then I had one cup, and I was freaking out. I was like, oh no, she's not going to sleep now. And she was a little bit irritable that day, and I'm like, it's because she had coffee. She had coffee.
For sure, but then I'm wondering, like, would she have been irritable either way?
No, I don't know. I think I was being paranoid because I had one cup of coffee and I waited, like an hour before I breastfed her.
Good for you.
And I think she probably only absorbed like 0.01% caffeine. And
exactly. And like people are, I think it's so funny too because like what I was told from this pediatrician, she was like, like if you want to have a drink, like you should wait. She said, but like if you want to have a cigarette or something, like the breast milk has its own filter in it. So basically, I'm not saying like go and smoke a pack of cigarettes and go drink a bottle of wine, but like it's okay to be human and like do little things for yourself, like have a coffee, have try to be reasonable here and maybe limit it to like 2 small coffees instead of like 2 ventis. Gotta get that caffeine.
Eventually, I think I moved up to 2 coffees a day, and I was comfortable with that, and Sloan was totally fine with it. But the whole thing with breastfeeding, I ended up stopping at 7 months, and I was really hoping to go to a year.
7 months is good, though.
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, I'm really proud of myself for making it that far. But at the same time, I think like every mom kind of like blames themselves and thinks like, oh, like I should have gone farther.
Like I should have just dealt with like the bleeding nipples.
Yeah, because the whole issue is that she was biting. She got her front 2 teeth, and then she just started biting my nipples, and I couldn't get her to stop. And I don't know
the worst
if she was biting because it was like a new thing that she'd learned to do, or if she was biting because she was actually frustrated that, like, you know, maybe my milk supply was dipping. I think it was a bit of both. I think that she was ready to move on to just formula. And
100%. The child will tell you, and I think a huge part of it is like also like if it's going to affect the relationship you have with your child. Like if your child is biting you and causing you pain, I'm sorry to say we're human. Resentment will build. You know
I didn't want to use the R word, but I did feel that way.
And it's totally healthy because like here you are giving your body to your child after you've already basically helped form her for so many months, and you're making sacrifices still, and she's physically hurting you, you know, to the point where you want to scream. And you know, it's better kind of not to scream and not put yourself through that and switch, especially if it's after the initial 3-month mark. I think the first 3 months are really the most important. And
some doctors say 6 months too, and another ones say a year. So it's really about what's best for you.
It's really confusing. So what are your thoughts on moms who decide, like moms in the city, I'm not talking about like in the mountains, okay, who decide to breastfeed their children after 2, after 2.5, after 3. What are your thoughts on this?
All the power to them. I think it's
cool.
okay. You know, I'm sure the child's getting a lot of nutrients. I think at that point though, they're probably only feeding them at night.
Yeah, that's so true. Like just before bed as a comfort.
But having said that, I do think habits are harder to break once the child gets older.
That's why I think it's great that in your case, your daughter ended up deciding when she was going to stop, and you didn't have to wean her. Like she weaned herself, which is actually kind of a cool thing.
She welcomed the bottle with open arms. I was like, oh, okay.
Take it. So
take
long as you're getting fed.
Yeah. And I felt so much better after. Oh my gosh. Like, I just felt so much more free. I was like, my boobs are mine again. And now Nathan can give her a bottle as well. So. And
you can like leave the house for more than 2 hours at a time.
A lot less pressure for sure. But I do miss that, like, that nice mom and baby time.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's really hard because you always want to sort of give them the love that they need. But at the end of the day, like, if a child decides that they're not going to take the breast, I think it's okay. Like, I have no problem with that. I think that if a child is speaking, sentences, not like goo gaga.
We didn't talk about that once they start talking or even walking. That's when it starts getting really weird.
If my child can walk up to my breast, that makes me really uncomfortable. So like, I remember after we lost my second child, I keep on referring to like Basil, like I call Max my second, but I remember my milk came in and I was like, okay, like to my first, it was like, let's see, he was almost 2. And I was like, my breasts were getting engorged. So I was like, maybe I can just like get him back on the breast and like, this will be like a really great way for me to heal and like all this stuff. And it was really uncomfortable because like, I was like, okay, like we're going to try this. And he was like, like he was so freaked out. He was like, I was like, okay, honestly, if this isn't going to scar you, like it's going to scar me. So like, we're not going to go there.
Yeah. And I feel
like I had my husband help me.
I don't know if this is true because Sloan is only, you know, almost 11 months old, but I feel like the older babies get, like when they start getting into toddler years, like 2 or 3, they start becoming quite possessive of their things as well. And I've definitely seen some older kids be quite like possessive with their mother's breasts.
It's very bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird.
Well, I think also too, like from a strictly psychological perspective, and like I'm really anti-Freud to be honest, but like we all know the Oedipal complex, where like basically, if for those of you who don't know, like Oedipus kills his father and sleeps with his mother, and then when he finds out that he's done this, he gouges out his eyeballs. So it's like a really terrible story. Like it's a classic like Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is that I do think that it's the father's role to help facilitate the okay, mommy is your mommy, but she's my woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's not your woman. You know what I mean? Like, mommy is her own person, but we have to like share her in a way. So it's like, it's important for like dad to step in and be like, and also I think vice versa. Like, I don't know, because I like hope maybe one day we'll have a daughter, but I think it's like mommy's role to be like, okay, that's enough. Like, you know, like, like settle down there.
Step away from the boobs.
And also too, like when you're out in public, like I don't have a problem if I see other kids, you know, grabbing at their mom's breasts after two or three. Like, as a parent, you understand and you think it's kind of sweet and cute and funny, or funny. But I think that it's not really, as a mother, like I would be very uncomfortable with that with myself. Like you know, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want my kid grabbing at me in front of, you know, I don't know, like just like your parents, like my parents, like things like this. Like it'd just be really awkward.
My dad?
Yeah. So, okay, so 2 more questions. 1, most embarrassing or difficult breastfeeding in public story. And then 2, have you ever leaked through your shirt?
Oh my gosh. So many times.
Been out. Okay, good for you. Okay, awesome.
But mostly at home, luckily, because I think like I didn't really go outside for the first like 3 months of Sloan's life. I remember leaking through at my grandma's house, and I was just like, oops.
Yeah, that's awesome.
She was like, whatever.
I was going to say, she's like, her vision's not that great.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's very good, unfortunately. But she didn't make fun of me, which is good.
That's comfortable. That's comforting.
Breastfeeding, honestly, like I kind of, it was, I mean, it was a bit, I would have, need to edit that out.
That's okay, we will. And we're back.
So with breastfeeding in public, I was always really scared to do it. I know that women shouldn't be afraid to.
But you are.
But I was a little bit nervous, and I don't know, but a bit like modest about it. I didn't want to whip it out everywhere. So I remember I was shopping with your sister once at Winners, and I had to sit down and start breastfeeding her. And it wasn't that awkward. I mean, it was just in front of the fitting room.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were coming and going, and I was just like, hi.
That's so
my baby.
Great. That's so great.
It was fine though.
So the first time that I leaked through my shirt was actually at the 6-week appointment, and I was drenched, and I didn't even realize, because like I don't know about you, but like postpartum in milk. But I was also I was drenched in sweat, because I always get really sweaty after I give birth, like for like 2 months.
Oh yeah, it's just like serious hot flashes.
I just like really intense sweating, and so I didn't even notice, and I was like nervous because I think I just took the baby with the car, and it was like kind of just me, and so I was really like, I don't know, whatever, just hormonal. And the doctor was like, oh, like you leaked through your shirt, and I realized that I was soaking wet. And then she told me about these breast pads that you can get, where they're like literal pads that you put inside your bra. And so I just wanted to show you guys the ones that I use. These are Laniso, and I love them because I love these ones because, first of all, they come single, like in singles, which is really great because hypothetically, if you're wearing 2 and one accidentally drops on the floor, throw it out. Do not put it back. That's how I got mastitis, which is kind of gross. But like one of my breast pads fell on the floor, and I was like, oh, it's no big deal. But I'm sure just like a little piece of like dirt or something touched the open breast, and also I like the fact that they're round, because I found that the triangular ones show through your shirt, and these ones really like, I think for any breast shape, the round ones are really, really nice. The Laniso.
I've seen square ones too, but those kind of like fit weird in your bra.
Yeah, the round ones are definitely the way to go in my opinion. And then also breastfeeding, like I remember it was my first Mother's Day as a mother, and like I was out for lunch and I got like sent to the bathroom to breastfeed. I was like a family event, and I was like, okay, like I didn't bring a cover, so I guess that's fair.
I remember you telling me this, and I was really appalled.
Well, it's kind of like upsetting because I think a lot of women end up getting shunned to the toilets, and it's sort of like, well, if I'm not going to bring my, cereal or sandwich to the toilet to eat, like, why am I forcing my child to eat where people defecate? Like, it's really unfortunate and kind of gross. And, now I'll always bring a cover, but also because it's winter, I find it's a lot easier to not have a cover because you're just wearing something loose, and you basically, like, unless somebody's actively, like, looking to try to see your nipples, like, they're not going to see anything. So,
I That makes me really uncomfortable.
It makes me
Someone was
really
gonna
uncomfortable
say that
too.
to me, I would be speechless.
Yeah, and especially too, because when your child is hungry in that moment, you're like, I just have to feed my kids.
All you want to do is just take care of your child. You don't want to worry about what other people are thinking. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
like why I was so afraid to breastfeed in public.
And like this time around, I feel like way more comfortable.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding in public. Like when we were abroad together for our siblings' wedding, I breastfed all over.
Yeah.
Like I was just like all over town. I was like, okay, we're walking. Like I'm gonna stop into this Zara's to like breastfeed.
You're such a
Just,
pro
like,
breastfeeder. Like you do dishes and breastfeed at the same time. I don't know how she does it.
Yeah, I do like the one arm. What's your favorite? Okay, last question. Is that okay? Last question. Okay. What's your favorite breastfeeding position?
I just liked the cradle. Is it called the cradle with the breastfeeding pillow? That was
a pillow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I like that one sometimes too.
I
I like lying down. I love to feed my child and lie down because it's just so relaxing, and I also feel like you get to rest a little bit, and like also in the first few months when you're feeding all through the night, just being able to sleep, or like sleep. You never really sleep when your child's beside you. Like close your eyes and actually rest and not get crick neck. So
the old crick neck.
We're like anti-crick neck, pro breastfeeding in public.
Well, thank you so much for listening, you guys.
Thank you so much. We love you. Let us know if you have any questions. We are, because of our experience, we are pros at breastfeeding. No, well, we have,
between us.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care of your
nipples.
Keep them moisturized if you're breastfeeding. And don't listen to me. If you're going to breastfeed past 3 years, do it. Just maybe don't tell people about it. Okay. God bless. Bye.